The greatest battle you will ever fight is the one that takes place within your own mind. This truth, though simple, is often overlooked, yet every man who has ever achieved greatness, every woman who has defied the odds, first conquered their inner world long before victory arrived in the outer one. You see, your mind is not simply a tool. It is the master key. It is the source from which all progress, all wealth, all happiness flow, or, when neglected, it becomes the source of failure, frustration, and stagnation. I would like you to imagine for a moment that your mind is a garden. It will grow something. Whether that something is beautiful flowers or choking weeds depends entirely on the seeds you plant. Thoughts are the seeds. Every day, you are planting. Whether you realize it or not, some plant seeds of doubt, worry, anger, and fear. Others plant seeds of belief, determination, courage, and faith. But here is the truth the majority never stop to realize. Whatever you plant, the soil does not judge. It simply returns in abundance whatever you chose to sow. This is why training your mind is the greatest and most urgent responsibility you will ever undertake. For if your thoughts remain random, reactive, and undisciplined, your life will reflect chaos. If they become intentional, focused, and powerful, your life will reflect mastery. It cannot be otherwise. Now, I want to make something very clear. Training your mind does not mean forcing yourself to be positive in every waking moment. No, life is not so rigid. You will feel doubt. You will face setbacks. But training your mind means teaching yourself what to do in those moments. It means programming your thoughts to respond with purpose, rather than surrendering to whatever fleeting emotion presents itself. It means developing the habit of thinking constructively. Especially when things get difficult. The first step, too. This is awareness. You cannot change what you do not notice. Most people live their lives unaware of the constant chatter taking place in their minds. They allow old fears and conscious beliefs and limiting assumptions to dictate their path. They are, in effect, being led, not leading. But you, if you are to achieve anything of substance, must become the master of this inner dialogue. You must observe your thoughts with clarity and ask, does this thought serve my highest vision? Or does it pull me away from it? Once awareness is established, the second step is choice. Too often, people assume that thoughts simply happen. This is false. You may not control the first thought that appears, but you always control the second. You control whether you dwell upon a thought or release it. You control whether you reinforce fear or affirm strength. Each time you choose wisely, you are training your mind. Each time you redirect negativity and replace it with conviction, you are laying the foundation of a mind built for achievement. Understand this well. Achievement does not come from the loud moments of life. It is not born when the crowd is watching. No, it is forged quietly in solitude, when no one sees you wrestling with your own doubts and choosing, again and again, to think as the person you aspire to become. This is the essence of mental training. And so, the question rises, how often should you train? The answer, of course, is daily. Just as you would never expect your body to remain strong if you exercised only once a year, neither should you expect your mind to remain sharp without regular attention. Spend time each morning setting the tone of your thinking. Reflect upon your goals, affirm your ability to reach them, visualize the steps you will take, direct your thoughts toward possibility, toward growth, toward the person you are becoming. This is not fantasy. This is the discipline of mental mastery. When practiced consistently, you will begin to notice subtle shifts. You will respond to challenges more calmly. You will persist where before you might have quit. You will see opportunities where once you saw only obstacles. Bit by bit, The outer world will begin to mirror the power you have cultivated within. Remember this simple but profound law: as within, so without. To train your mind, then, is not merely an exercise in self-improvement. It is the prerequisite to shaping the life you desire. Everything flows from thought. Every invention, every fortune, every masterpiece began as an idea held firmly in the mind of its creator. You too are a creator, and what you create begins and ends with the thoughts you allow to dominate your mind. If the mind is the master key, then belief is the hand that turns it. Without belief, thought remains weak and passive. But when fueled by conviction, thought becomes irresistible. You must understand, no achievement, large or small, can exist apart from belief. It is belief that transforms effort into destiny. When you believe you are capable, you act in accordance with that belief. You take risks. You persist longer. You endure the trials that inevitably rise on the path to anything worthwhile. Too many approach life timidly, hesitant to stake their claim. Why? Because deep within, they do not believe they deserve success. They have been conditioned, often since childhood, to play small, to expect little, to view ambition as dangerous. But you must reject this conditioning. You were not born with limitations. You inherited them, and what is inherited can be discarded. You must choose new beliefs. You must declare to yourself and the world, I am capable, I am worthy, I am becoming. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. For what you believe, you will prove true, whether for good or ill. If you believe you are destined to fail, your actions will subtly, unconsciously ensure that outcome. If you believe you are destined to succeed, your behavior will reflect that certainty, and reality will slowly yield to your expectations. Thus, training the mind is not only about discipline. It is about belief. It is about writing a new script and rehearsing it until it becomes second nature. But belief alone is not enough. It must be supported by clarity. A mind without direction is like a ship without a rudder. It may be powerful, but it will drift aimlessly, subject to every current and storm. You must give your mind a target. You must tell it where to go. What do you truly want? Not vague wishes, not fleeting desires, but clear, vivid, and specific goals. Define them, write them down, speak them aloud. The more precise you are, the more powerful your mind will become. In seeking them, do not say, I want success. Say, I will become the most respected professional in my field within 5 years. Do not say, I want happiness. Say, I will cultivate gratitude daily and build a life aligned with my values. This clarity turns belief into a force. Once clarity is established, repetition must follow. A mind trained once is not trained at all. It must be conditioned again and again until the thoughts you choose become the default patterns you live by. This is why I urge you to make daily mental training non-negotiable. Set aside time each morning and evening. Reflect on your goals. Affirm your beliefs. Visualize your progress. Review your victories, however small. Celebrate the fact that you are growing, evolving, moving forward over time. This repetition will rewire your mind. You will find that destructive thoughts lose their grip, old doubts fade. In their place will stand new beliefs, strong, unshakable, aligned with your purpose. You will begin to trust yourself in ways you never have before. But here lies a warning. The mind, though powerful, is not loyal to success by default. If left unattended, it will revert to its old patterns. Doubt, fear, procrastination, these are the weeds that grow when the gardener abandons the field. This is why training your mind is a lifelong practice. You will never arrive. You will never reach a day when discipline is no longer needed. Greatness does not rest. Success is maintained only through continued vigilance. You must remain the watchman at the gate of your mind. You must decide what enters and what is cast aside. You must choose which voices you will listen to, your higher self, which calls you upward, or your lower nature, which whispers of comfort and mediocrity. Every day, you must make this choice. Every hour, you must renew your decision. This is the work. It is not glamorous. It is not easy, but it is the only way. For nothing you seek, no goal, no dream, no lasting achievement can exist apart from the quality of your thinking. You will become, in every sense, the product of your mind's dominant patterns. Train them wisely, and your life will become a masterpiece. If belief and clarity form the foundation, action becomes the structure you build upon it. Thought alone cannot create. A mind trained to achieve is a mind prepared for action. Far too many make the mistake of stopping at vision. They see the summit in their minds, but they never take the first step toward it. They talk of desires, speak endlessly of goals, yet remain motionless, trapped in thought, paralyzed by the gap between knowing and doing. Understand this clearly. It is not enough to know what you want. You must begin moving toward it. Even imperfectly, the man who takes one small step daily will, in time, surpass the man who spends his life waiting for the perfect moment. Success does not come to those who wait. It comes to those who advance. Action, no matter how humble, carries power. It signals to the mind, this is real. This matters. You may wonder, what if I act and fail? Consider instead, what if I never act at all? Failure through effort is a lesson. Failure through inaction is simply regret. When you act, you gain. Feedback, you learn. You adjust, you sharpen your approach. Without action, your ideas remain ghosts, invisible, unproven, and ultimately meaningless. Action transforms belief into conviction. Action breathes life into clarity. Each task completed, each challenge faced, builds momentum. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to realize, deep within, that you are capable of far more than you once thought. The mind, through repeated victories, begins to see itself as powerful. And this shift from doubt to assurance marks the beginning of mastery. But action alone, without persistence, will falter. Anyone can act for a day. Anyone can act for a week. But only the committed will act for months, years, even decades. When results are slow and the path is difficult, persistence is where many fail, not because they lack ability, but because they lack endurance. They begin with enthusiasm, only to abandon their pursuit when the novelty fades. You must make persistence your creed. You must decide, before challenges rise, that you will not quit. Success often belongs not to the most talented, but to the most stubborn, the one who refuses to give up when others have surrendered. Persistence means acting even when motivation is absent. It means advancing when progress is invisible. It means trusting that your consistent effort will eventually break through. You may not always see the results immediately. Seeds do not sprout the moment they are planted. They require care, time, and patience. So to do your efforts, some days, it will seem as though nothing is happening. The mind will whisper, "Why continue?" Ignore this voice. Persist, for success belongs to those who hold the vision. Act daily, and refuse to let discouragement turn them back. Along this journey, discipline will be your constant ally. Discipline ensures that action and persistence do not depend on feelings. Feelings are fleeting. They rise and fall like the tides. Discipline, however, is chosen. It is built through routine. strengthened through repetition, and becomes, over time, part of your very nature. Train your mind to act not when it is easy, but especially when it is hard. This is when true growth occurs, when you choose to act on the days you wish to rest, when you persist on the days you wish to quit, when you hold to your course even when storms rage around you. This is the mark of those who achieve by acting daily, persisting relentlessly, and disciplining your mind to rise above fleeting emotions. You create not only success, but strength. You become the type of person capable of holding and sustaining success. Without this transformation, even if success comes, it will slip through your fingers. You must become equal to your ambitions. You must shape your mind into an instrument, so resilient, so focused, that no setback can destroy your resolve. This is the essence of achievement. Not luck, not talent, but trained thought aligned with unwavering action, sustained by discipline and persistence through this process. You do more than pursue goals. You forge a new self. You become a man or woman who, regardless of circumstance, knows how to move forward. You become one who others look to and say, there is strength, there is certainty, there is success. Quietly built and firmly earned, the mind, once disciplined into belief, clarity, and persistent action, begins to unlock doors that once seemed sealed shut. But what lies beyond is not simply the achievement of a goal. It is the emergence of a higher way of living. When you train your mind to achieve anything, you train it to see differently, to think differently, and to respond differently to the world around you. Most live in reaction. They move only when forced. They change only when pushed. They drift, carried by the tides of circumstance and the opinions of others. But those who have trained their minds live in creation. They shape, they mold, they bend reality to meet their vision. They are proactive architects, not passive passengers. This is the invisible divide between the ordinary and the extraordinary. When you begin to master your mind, challenges no longer appear as threats. They become invitations. Difficulties are no longer reasons to stop, but reasons to sharpen your skills. Criticism no longer wounds. It teaches. Failure no longer defines. It refines. The trained mind knows this. The trained mind welcomes this. Where others see burdens, the trained mind sees opportunities for elevation. As you continue to train your mind, you will notice a remarkable shift. Life itself begins to respond differently to you. Doors open that once remained closed. People sense your certainty. Circumstances align in ways they never did before. You become magnetic, not by chance, but by design. Success begins to seek you, because success, in truth, always finds those prepared to receive it. But let us speak clearly. This does not mean life becomes without struggle. On the contrary, struggle remains. However, your relationship with struggle transforms. It no longer breaks you. It builds you. Every trial becomes fuel. Every setback becomes wisdom. Every difficulty becomes part of your arsenal. The trained mind does not avoid adversity. It absorbs and transcends it. In this phase, you move beyond mere achievement. You enter the realm of mastery. Mastery is not about having everything go your way. It is about knowing, with unshakable confidence, that whatever comes, you will find a way through. You will adapt. You will overcome. You will emerge stronger every single time. Mastery means you begin to operate with calmness under pressure. When others panic, you remain composed. When others doubt, you hold your faith. When others quit, you press on. This calm assurance, this quiet power, is the result of disciplined thought practiced day after day, year after year, and as you master your mind, you begin to teach. even if silently. Your life becomes the lesson. Others watch. They see your steadiness, your progress, your grace under fire. Without words, you inspire. Without lectures, you lead. This, too, is part of greatness, to become the living embodiment of the principles you once merely studied, and by this point, something else becomes clear. Success, as the world defines it, no longer holds the same allure. Wealth, recognition, achievement, they become byproducts, not primary pursuits. What matters most is who you have become. You realize that the greatest victory is mastery over self, the ability to command your thoughts, steer your actions, and remain unmoved by distractions. You now live from within, not from without. You move according to purpose, not pressure. You act from wisdom, not impulse. This is rare. This is powerful. This is what few will ever know. But you will, because you chose to train your mind. Remember always, a trained mind does not chase. It attracts. It does not react. It creates. It does not hope. It knows. This is the level you are rising to. One disciplined thought at a time. The mind, once shaped and sharpened, becomes a compass, and this compass, when properly tuned, always points in one direction. Forward. To train your mind to achieve anything is to program it to reject stagnation. You no longer settle. You no longer linger. You no longer entertain the luxury of delay. Instead, you become attuned to action, clear, focused, and consistent action. Each morning becomes an opportunity. You rise not out of habit, but out of intent. You do not wait to feel motivated. You move regardless of feeling. You do not wait for ideal circumstances. You act, knowing you create the circumstances through your decision to act. This is mental training in its most profound form, teaching your mind to obey the direction you choose, rather than the fleeting whims of mood or comfort. You understand now that achievement is built on layers of seemingly ordinary days stacked one upon the other. The world may not notice. There will be no applause for the morning you chose to study instead of sleep, or the evening you chose discipline instead of distraction. But your mind notices, and slowly, these small acts compound into an unstoppable first dot. As your mind becomes more disciplined, clarity becomes your ally. You no longer ask, "What should I do today?" You know, the path is etched deeply within you, because you have rehearsed it mentally so many times that hesitation disappears. Decision-making becomes easy. Doubt loses its grip. You begin to trust yourself fully and deeply. With this clarity, distractions lose their power. You see them for what they are, thieves of focus, robbers of potential. While others are lured by temporary pleasures, you keep your eyes fixed on the horizon. You remind yourself daily, what I want most matters more than what I want now. This, too, is a mental habit, and, like all habits, it strengthens with use. But along this path, there is yet another transformation. You begin to feel an inner stillness, a quiet confidence that replaces the restless hunger for validation. When your mind is trained, you no longer seek approval from others. You no longer require applause to feel worthy. Achievement in itself becomes the reward. The journey, the growth, becomes enough. In this state, your ambitions grow pure. You no longer chase goals for recognition. You chase them because they call to something deeper in you, a desire to express, to expand, to test your own limits. Success becomes less about having and more about becoming. The external rewards arrive, yes, but they arrive quietly, almost as an afterthought, because you have already found your treasure in the mastery of self. You also begin to realize that setbacks are not enemies. They are guides. Each failure becomes a teacher. each disappointment a necessary correction. A trained mind does not collapse under defeat. It studies defeat. It mines it for lessons. It uses it to strengthen the foundation others stop when faced with difficulty. You, however, proceed with deeper wisdom. Ultimately, this is what separates the few who achieve from the many who only wish. It is not luck. It is not talent. It is trained thinking, thought, directed, refined, disciplined, becomes the invisible force that pulls success toward you. You no longer merely participate in life. You influence it. You shape it. And as you continue to train your mind, you step fully into the role of creator. No longer at the mercy of circumstances. You begin to dictate them, no longer hoping for opportunity. You generate it, no longer asking for permission. You move forward boldly, knowing that your preparation has made you worthy of all that is to come. This is the quiet power of the mind, and when it is trained, it does not scream for attention. It simply achieves. At this point, something remarkable happens. You no longer recognize the person you once were. The doubts that used to visit you daily seem like distant memories. The hesitation that once held you back has dissolved. You are no longer moved by fear, nor discouraged by temporary failure. Why? Because your mind is now conditioned to see beyond the moment. It understands what very few do. That temporary discomfort is the price of permanent greatness. You do not flinch at challenges. You expect them. In fact, you welcome them. The trained mind knows that every obstacle carries with it an invitation to grow. You no longer say, "Why is this happening to me?" You say instead, "What is this teaching me?" This simple shift is everything. It is the dividing line between the person who retreats and the one who rises. You begin to think. On levels most do not. You think in years, not moments. You consider legacy, not quick wins. You see every small action as a seed, every conversation as an opportunity, every day as a building block. There is no wasted motion now. Even your rest is strategic. Even your downtime serves a purpose, to restore and prepare you for more. Others will wonder about you. They will ask, "How did he do it?" They will assume luck, talent, or timing. Few will realize that it was none of these things. It was your mind, trained, disciplined, laser-focused. You learn to guide it when others let theirs drift. You learn to persist when others quit. You learn to build when others merely dreamed. This trained mind becomes your greatest ally. It silences the noise of the world. It ignores the criticisms of the mediocre. It rejects the temptation to stop. While others fall in love with comfort, you fall in love with the process. While others seek escape, you seek mastery. And as the years pass, the fruits of your mental labor begin to show. Suddenly, the goals that once seemed distant are now part of your daily life. The people you admired are now your peers. The lifestyle you envied is now your normal. This is no accident. This is no coincidence. This is the natural result of trained, intentional thought. You did not stumble into success. You earned it, hour by hour, decision by decision, thought by thought. And now, standing where you are, you realize something else. The journey is not over. It never is. The mind, though powerful, must be trained daily. Just as the body weakens without exercise, so too does the mind without challenge. So you continue. You continue because you understand what so many never will. That achievement is not an event. It is a habit. You continue to feed your mind with wisdom. You continue to set bigger goals. You continue to refuse complacency. Because now you know, the greatest danger is not failure, but stopping after success. You understand that the mind, once awakened, must never again be allowed to sleep. This is the final truth. When you train your mind to achieve anything, you gain more than success. You gain freedom. Freedom from fear. Freedom from self-doubt. Freedom from the small thinking that traps most people in lives they never wanted. You become the master of your fate, because you have become the master of your mind. And in this mastery, you discover the ultimate secret. When the mind is trained, there is no desire to big, no mountain to high, and no life to grand.